Welcome back, Patriots. Nancy Pelosi is trending on Twitter once again for January 6th. If you recall, for years, the Democrat Party, the media, in conjunction with Nancy Pelosi, passed the blame on January 6th to Donald J. Trump, when in reality, it was Nancy Pelosi that had the responsibility of authorizing the National Guard to go and protect the Capitol. What we have here is Donald Trump being interviewed early on by Meet the Press on MSNBC regarding the National Guard being sent to the Capitol. Here we go.
By the way,
on that day,
Nancy Pelosi, I don't have, why would I tell you that? Listen, Nancy Pelosi was in charge of security. She turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't turn down the soldiers, you wouldn't have had January 6th.
Did you call military or law enforcement?
What?
Did you call military or law enforcement at the moment the Capitol was under attack?
I'm not going to tell you anything. Let me put it this way. I behaved so well. I did such a good job. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't do that,
but
and now
Nancy
I understand.
Pelosi doesn't have the authority that you have as commander-in-chief, though.
Listen to me, Kristen. Listen to me. I understand that the police testified against her, the chief very strongly against her. Capitol Police, great people. They testified against her, and they burned all the evidence. Okay, they burned all the evidence. They destroyed all the evidence about Nancy Pelosi.
What do you say to people who wonder why you as commander-in-chief, you have authorities that Nancy Pelosi doesn't have as commander-in-chief?
No, she has authority over the Capitol.
Why didn't you send help in that moment, though?
Frankly, just so you understand, I assumed that she took care of it. She turned down.
So when you realized that the National Guard wasn't coming?
Well, you don't realize anything until quite a while. National Guard not coming. I asked it to be there 3 days in advance, and she turned it down.
She says that request was never officially made.
Oh,
just so you know.
Let me just tell you.
Let me ask you about pardons,
let me
Mr.
tell
President.
you. The mayor of D.C. gave us a letter saying that she turns it down. Okay, we have it. Nancy Pelosi also was asked, and she turned it down. The police commissioner
I'm talking about
Capitol
the day
Police,
of,
wait a minute.
Yep.
Capitol Police said that he wanted it, and Nancy Pelosi wouldn't accept it. She's responsible for January 6th.
Mr. President.
You're damn right she's responsible for January 6th, Mr. Trump. You're damn right that she doesn't want to take the blame for her lack of leadership in getting the National Guard's asses down there when everything took place. And he brought up, if you saw in the interview, Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund was on the Tucker Carlson show and talks about this whole debacle regarding our intelligence apparatus, Nancy Pelosi not allowing the National Guard to be there. Here we go.
Big picture, just to restate, you've seen many things like this, and as you just said, this was very different. This was handled very differently. By whom?
By the intelligence. I'd say one, by the intelligence agency, two, by the military. So the reason why I say the military, think of this. By federal law, Congress passed a law that requires me to go to the Sergeant Arms Capitol Police Board in advance of an event and to request federal resources such as the National Guard. So Congress passed a law. It's 2 U.S. Code 1970. Look it up. Just make sure you look it up before December 22 when they changed it. So what was in effect on the 6th, that requires me to go and get approval for bringing in National Guard or federal assistance in advance. I have to go to the Capitol Police Board and get approval from congressional leadership in advance, like I did on January 3rd. I'm denied twice because of optics and because the intelligence didn't support it. So think about that.
Let me ask you the question, who made that decision? Who denied you?
I was denied by Paul Irving, House Sergeant Arms, and also Mike Stenger, Senate Sergeant Arms.
And who do they work for?
It would have been working for Pelosi on the House side. That Pelosi was the number one boss, and then McConnell on the Senate side.
Oh, look at Carlson's face. Oh, Nancy Pelosi had responsibility and denied who? Denied Capitol Police Chief of getting the National Guard down there. Folks, he's been trying to get security down there for 3 days. The Pentagon was worried about something brewing and happening, that they wanted to close down the entire Capitol, the entire area, and wouldn't allow it to happen.
So effectively, Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi shut down your request.
Exactly, Mr. Carlson, exactly. Oh, and it goes further regarding the responsibility being put on Nancy Pelosi regarding January 6th.
So what is I just want to pause on this for a minute. It's almost unbelievable. So this is an event that Pelosi herself has likened to Pearl Harbor and 9/11. the worst thing that's ever happened on American soil, and she's in charge of allowing the National Guard to come in and respond, but she doesn't for 71 minutes? What is that?
I can't fathom why. I mean, they had to have known what was going on. I was telling them how bad it was.
Well, it was on TV.
It was on TV. It was right outside of Mike Stinger's office. And they had a meeting in his office saying, hey, where's the National Guard? And they're like, oh, we're trying to make... The fighting is going on right outside his office. And I'm still getting delayed.
This is an unbelievable story.
Oh, it is. Now get a kick out of this.
Has anyone ever explained this?
It's remarkable. But what we saw for 4 years was, again, the media, the Democrat Party, Nancy Pelosi, passing the blame onto who? Passing the blame onto Donald Trump. It was all Donald Trump's fault for years. For years, it was Donald Trump's fault. Here we go again with another clip from the Tucker Carlson podcast.
I don't understand. We're only 10 minutes into this, and you've told me two things. One, the other federal agencies withheld critical information from you in charge of security at the Capitol before January 6th. And once it started and things got out of control, for 71 minutes, Pelosi refused to allow you to bring in the National Guard. So those are two of the biggest questions from January 6th. And my question is, why don't we have answers to why that happened?
It doesn't seem like people really want to get to the bottom of it. It really doesn't.
Well, it's either that or you have some deep state that's in place, which is working in conjunction with the Democrat Party, which is working in conjunction with the media, that we know the CIA is involved in all this stuff. We know that the FBI was down there with a couple hundred agents with boots on the ground on January 6th. It's really odd how for years we only saw one side of the narrative. We only saw one side of the coin. All the while, you have Donald Trump sitting there on MSNBC telling them that, hey, it's Nancy Pelosi. He requested it. It went through the chain. There's an order to all this. And they just wanted to paint Donald Trump as the bad guy. And here's Nancy Pelosi with leaked video. I don't know who leaked this bad boy, of her saying it's on her, that she needs to take responsibility. And I think what nobody's talking about here is, while January 6th is going on and this video is being recorded, I think she knows shit hits the fan. I think she knows at this point in time that she's effed. I think she knows at some point in history, all this is going to come out, and she's trying to formulate PR. She's trying to formulate a media movement on how they cannot take responsibility, even though she's talking to her people in her car about, hey, it's her fault. And that's where we get in this video.
We have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing when they've already breached the inaugural stuff that should we call the Capitol Police? I mean, the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
They thought that they had sufficient resources.
No, that is not a question of how they had been. They don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more.
Correct. Because it was asked of you to have more down there, Nancy. It was told by the Pentagon. It was told by the Capitol Police Chief himself that had meetings days before, hours before. He requested it before. He requested it during, of which you took over an hour to get the National Guard down there, and they didn't even get there till after an hour. They got there around like 2 p.m., I think, or some crazy number like that. And then you don't want to take responsibility, and rather than taking responsibility of what you do on tape, you sit there and make your media rounds of, oh, well, this is all Donald Trump's fault. This is the Republicans' fault. Look at these extremists, insurrection, and utilizing that movement to sit there and try to not get Donald Trump reelected. And so what does she do now that this videotape has come out? Well, she's doing her media rounds again. And as if you notice, what's on your screen? MSNBC, who wants to sit there and rub the shoulders of the Democrat Party. The same MSNBC that was calling Donald Trump an extremist, right? A threat to democracy and all these things. In that interview going, well, why didn't you bring the National Guard? Well, it's your responsibility. You are the president. It can't be Nancy Pelosi's fault. So here she is saying, well, it's revisionist history. What you just saw in this episode right now is all fake.
Well, because of the fact is that the President of the United States, the former president, and his toadies do not want to face the facts. They're trying to do revisionist history on January 6th. But we cannot let us be dragged into their, again, false impression of what happened that day. They know what happened that day. They know how serious it is and was and continues to have an impact on our country. And yet they want to call the people who were in there hostages. Last night I received the Lincoln Award.
Oh, here she goes. And then she gives this whole political speech, but it's revisionist history, guys. Everything that you saw, what we just showed you, is absolutely fake. It's not real. It's conspiracy theorists. In the same way that the media sat there and only showed us the same 6 minutes of video of the Capitol Police being overran by these people going into the Capitol, they showed us the same thing of all these people standing outside protesting, doing all these things, but yet they have 40,000 hours that they didn't want to show us. The Democrat Party has called on it regarding when Tucker Carlson got the videotapes. Well, all of a sudden, who did they pass the blame on to of why they not showed the American people the 40,000 hours? Oh, because, well, we didn't see it. And the things we did see, it was our staffers' fault. The Democrat Party, the congressmen and women, blamed it of not showing you all the footage on their staffers. They didn't know about it themselves, according to them, in congressional hearings. It was a movement. It was sitting there and pushing a narrative that was going to lie to all of you. They have been lying for quite some time. They're going to continue to lie all the way up until the election and thereafter, folks. I want to make sure I bring you the news here regarding Nancy Pelosi taking responsibility and then not taking responsibility for January 6th, even though it was her responsibility. With that being said, Patriots, I'll see you next time here on The Bo Brad Show.